Okay.
We are live. Yay! So today, ladies, we have Denise Hughes. She is the money coach, and Denise lives in California. So I am so honored and blessed to have you on, Denise, because you have helped so many women, especially in our season of life too, just with money issues. And so I'm going to let you just introduce yourself and you take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Alice, and thank your community. And it's wonderful to be here with you all. I love when women get together. And I especially love when we start to own our power, claim it, to step into it, and, to create a life by design, right? So I am a money coach. And I'm not going to tell you a lot about that, but I want to tell you just a little bit. The reason that I am a money coach is because I had so many of my own money messes that I had to figure out, and they were big. And it was a way that I could give back and to serve. And that's important to me, because the truth is, whatever money mess or situation that we're in, there are solutions to every situation. We just have to find them, right? And relax our brain and our body enough to kind of find them. So, Alice, when you asked me about, preparing today for your beautiful group, and to make things a bit current around coronavirus and where we all are. Hold on, I'm just gonna quiet. Sorry about that, I apologize. There are really two things, that's it, that I wanna talk about today to keep things simple. And one of those things is what I would call kneeling at the altar of what is.
Oh gosh, that's so good.
And I don't know if I heard that in a poem somewhere, but it grabbed my heart. It grabbed my spirit in a big way, because the call, right? The call for each of us in this life is to really live in the present and to stay in the present. It's not to be like super duper future forecasted, and it's not to be way in the past either, right? And so when it comes to practices in our lives, I have a background as a registered nurse, and for I don't know how many years, but I normally have worked in intensive care, and I've loved brain chemistry. And so what I want to bring you today is not just some practices, but I want to share with you some physiology that can really help ground us and to help our brain so that we are not functioning on fight and flight nervous systems, where we can actually move from the emotional part of our brain in the middle to the thinking part of our brain in the front, right? And one of the practices that allows us to do that is the practice of gratitude, which is very much related to kneeling at the altar of what is. Because regardless of whatever situation that we are in, which is right now, where if you kind of listen to the news and you listen to whatever media is out there right now, it's all about the scarcity energy that's pulsating through the television or through our airwaves to us. There aren't enough masks and people are dying, and honestly, we're not out of food or toilet paper, but what you're seeing here are so many of these reactions that are scarcity behaviors that are actually not rational, and they are not warranted for the times that we are in. Yes, people are dying. Yes, people are sick. Is that sad? You freaking bet it is. And we're not running out of toilet paper and food. So like, we need to be aware of this scarcity mentality that is all around us, like, you know, an IMAX theater type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so gratitude helps us to come home to ourselves and to our senses, right?
Yeah.
Elizabeth Gilbert did this amazing exercise where she said, what are 5 things that you can taste, 4 things that you can feel or touch, 3 things that you can hear, 1 that you know, so, you know, and gratitude is really about that. When we kind of step into the present, we are stepping into our senses. Mm-hmm. What is here before us right now, right this minute. And when we do that, there are some things, significant things that happen to our body, mind, and spirit. One is, as I already said, we move from the emotional brain to the thinking brain, where rational thought lives, right? Why is that important? Because if we touch in and touch base, we can say to ourselves, I'm alive, I'm breathing, I'm present, I can see beauty all around me, right? Yeah. That's a holy, sacred thing, regardless of what's going on in the theater around us. The other thing is, often, not always, but often, when we are in our midbrain, our thinking brain, where emotion lives during this time, fear is activated. And what does fear do? Fear triggers the stress hormone cortisol in our body. And what does cortisol do? Cortisol has some amazing functions that were studied by MIT about 5 years ago. And these are some of them. 1 dose of cortisol lasts up to 26 hours.
Wow.
So you can imagine if you're running the similar fear thoughts all day of what you're pumping into your system, right?
Yeah.
Cortisol also naturally has a quality where it does not allow us to see possibility thinking. It kind of blinds us and shuts us off for more expanded thinking, and it takes us down the rabbit hole of negativity. And as long as we are pumping cortisol, it is really hard physiologically for us to shift and get out of that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Right? And so yeah. When we shift from the midbrain to the frontal lobe and we start to think, what am I really grateful for? And what was the best part of my day? We actually start to squirt out a new hormone in our body instead of cortisol, which is dopamine. Mm-hmm. And dopamine is the happy chemical. And dopamine squirts out when we go shopping.
Yep.
Dopamine squirts out when we're on antidepressants. And dopamine squirts out when we're in a state of gratitude.
Yes.
And so we, you know, and I don't say this lightly, we carry an inner pharmacy. And through the choices we make, we get to activate what chemicals we are going to run to help us to create the mood that we are embodied in.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. It's just like I put on my shirt this morning. It's like, it's my choose happy, okay? Because it's just like you said, you know, we wake up with choices also. And, you know, it doesn't really matter what kind of circumstances we're going through. It's how we choose to go through it and what we choose to see through it as well. So, and we're never guaranteed tomorrow. And I think, as we talked about before, the economy is not our source. God is our source.
Right.
So, we just live for today. We are in uncertain times, certainly, but our life is uncertain. So how do you choose to live it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And to build on what you're saying too, I love what you say about that our life is run by God and not by the economy. And when you kind of really think about what is happening right now, in the background of all the different forms of abundance that are present in our lives, money being one of them, and so many more around health and relationship and work and connection and time. So right now, there may be some, bubbles in the road, so to speak, around the money piece. And yet there are all these other resources that we are given that are still present in our lives, that are deepening in our lives right now. And we need to claim those too, kind of like, well, how are we deepening relationship and bringing more wealth and richness into our lives through those connections, right?
Mm-hmm.
So gratitude is such an amazing money practice and life practice. The other thing that gratitude does, and I want you to remember this for if we ever get back to normal, but like who would know, is gratitude, a practice of it, actually helps you to have more patience and delay gratification in your life. And what the studies show is that people don't want to really shop as much when they're grateful, because you have shifted out of the energy of I don't have, I need, scarcity, to everything I have is right here. I don't really need anything. It's all present.
Right.
Right.
I love that so much, because even I and you, we really do practice that in our everyday lives. But even so, more so now, even like when I'm preparing meals for Ricky and I, normally I would just go up to the grocery store. Well, for one, I'm thinking twice about it. For one, I'm thinking about what is here that I actually can use instead of wasting things that we waste so much, right? And then two, I don't really want to expose myself any more than I have to.
Right. It's true, right? So you make do.
Right. Yes.
Right? When our grandparents came to this country, they made do too. And we're kind of, and there's some blessing in leading a simple life. We don't have to run everywhere all the time.
Right.
Right? Like this is really making us look at how can we be more creative? How can we just appreciate what is here instead of always having to get.
Right. Yeah. I think, honestly, just as you say, for one, money can't buy factors and environments that happen in the world. You can have so much money, but that's not going to buy you control. And so the only thing that you have control of is how are you reacting to circumstances that happen, right? And so I think what we're seeing is families are reuniting. Yeah. They're actually getting to know their kids, where, like you said, it was run to this practice, run to this game. That's all I would ever hear of parents. Our society was just in the midst of chaos, I feel like, and families were being disconnected. And so now it's what you see is they're actually getting puzzles out, they're getting games out. Parents, like you said, are getting creative, cooking with their kids in the kitchen. It's this is what life is supposed to be. And I hope that when things do go back, which they will, is that they realize what they were missing in the midst of chaos.
Yeah, I think so too. So much of what is happening right now is heart-centered.
Yes.
Kindness and compassion and love and gentle ways. And that's important because I think our economy, the US economy has just been so much about money, money, money. And it's like I really do believe that we are in a state of spiritual bankruptcy. And this allows us to help shift that around,
Yes.
So, yeah. And, and the other thing I wanted to share with your community is this, because this is also a midbrain kind of thing. If you're in a place of fear right now around finances or, questioning like how long can my money take me? What's the bandwidth here? One of the things, the self-inquiries that I invite you to do is to ask yourself this question. Where am I being called as a woman right now to step into my financial power? And when I talk about power, I am talking about eyes wide open. I'm not talking about ostrich mentality. That's scary for real. But yet, it's a call that we need to step into. Another piece of that calling is a shift from anything that we experience vagueness in, not knowing, to clarity. Our numbers, our portfolios, our whatever it is. My husband and I, for example, have just, we swapped passwords because I have a bank account and he has his own and we don't have passwords to each other's. And it was like, okay, if something happens to one of us should know this. And this is embarrassing, but true transparency. We've had a living trust for 9 years, and he went through and signed everything, and I didn't. And so I went through and signed everything, right? And it was like just those things that were done in the excuse of hurry.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, you know what? This stuff is important. And so when we shift or we're willing to shift from this space of vagueness to clarity, we also shift from the passivity of fear to taking strategic action, right? Because fear paralyzes us. It's like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? I don't know. And we all, I'm a money coach, and come on, you know what? I'm always working on stuff, on my own stuff too, So this is important. And the questions that I would ask you are things like this. I wrote some things down. What do you need to know to bring comfort and to stop the cortisol from running? What is it that you need to know in your money life? Who do you need to ask to help you? What conversations need to happen? Mm-hmm. And what support and encouragement do you need, right? Because a lot of times when we are in fear, we often can embody the victim archetype. And that is really about noticing that we're in that place. We all know what it feels like. Mm-hmm. And then to ask ourselves, what do I need to do to take my power back? And honestly, sometimes that takes a little while to think about what would I need to take my power back? And once we find what that is for each of us, we can start to take those steps little by little in order to step into that space. So, one of the things that Alice, that I gave you was an Excel spreadsheet that people could start to use, or you could even use pen to paper. But just, know where your money's going, know your numbers. you know your bra size and your cholesterol, hopefully, and things like that. And it's like, don't let your numbers control you. You're the one who controls them behaviorally. And you could, if you know what they are, you can also stretch them versus not knowing what they are and just being afraid, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And also the transparency is because, Ricky and I really need to do the trust in the will as well too. And I don't have an excuse now right now.
We all have time.
Need to get on that. So, well, I appreciate you so much, Denise. That was just such good stuff. And for our podcast listeners, if you want to get in touch with Denise, can you just give our listeners a way to get in touch with you if they want to follow up on those money questions as well?
Sure. Well, of course, any question, and I would really recommend this to be asked in the community. Right, in your community, so that I can answer the question. I'm happy to do that there, because if one of you has a question, I'm sure that others have that same question.
Yes.
And I'm in the community, and if you are a little bit shy and you want a private question, you can always just within the community message me in Facebook Messenger.
Awesome.
Right, like that's an easy way to go. I think that's good. I mean,
awesome.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, great. So thank you so much, Denise, and I appreciate you being here. And listeners, if you have any questions, Denise will always be here for you to reach out to her. And we appreciate you being here, and have a good day.
You too. Thank you so much. It was great to be here with you and your community.
Thank you. Bye.